Have you ever opened your refrigerator and paused, just for a moment, wondering if everything inside truly belongs there? You wouldn't be alone. In fact, what if I told you that your fridge might be quietly sabotaging your health? Yes, even if everything looks clean, organized, and cold. This isn't about rotten meat or expired milk. This is about everyday staples. The potato in your drawer, the banana you just bought, or even the garlic bulb on your counter. These seemingly harmless foods, when chilled, can turn into quiet culprits, damaging not just flavor, but potentially your well-being. And for those of us in our 60s and beyond, the risks aren't just theoretical. Our immune systems aren't as robust. Our digestion can be more sensitive, and every choice we make with food has real consequences. So today, let me introduce you to Mary. She's 68, a retired librarian, and like many of us, she thought she was doing everything right in the kitchen. But small mistakes nearly cost her weeks of recovery and discomfort. What she discovered might change the way you look at your kitchen forever. Let's walk through the 9 foods you should never, ever refrigerate. And more importantly, the safer, smarter ways to store them. 1. Potatoes, a familiar comfort with a hidden risk. Mary had always been careful in the kitchen. At 72, she took pride in her routines, the little things that made her feel in control. One of those routines was storing her potatoes in the fridge. It made sense to her. Cold meant fresh, right? But one day, her daughter noticed something odd. The mashed potatoes didn't taste the same. They were sweeter, softer, and oddly colored. Mary brushed it off. Maybe it's the kind of potato, she said. But her daughter was concerned and did a bit of research. What they discovered surprised them both. When potatoes are kept in the refrigerator, the cold triggers a change in the potato's chemistry. The natural starches quickly turn into sugar. And when those sugary potatoes are cooked, especially baked or fried, they can form a chemical called acrylamide, which studies have linked to cancer in animals. It's not something anyone wants on their plate, especially not older adults who may already have health concerns. And it's not just about chemicals. The texture becomes wrong, mushy, and too sweet, making the meal less enjoyable and harder to digest. For seniors like Mary, it's a hidden risk wrapped in a well-meaning habit. The solution, thankfully, is simple. Potatoes are best stored in a breathable basket or paper bag, kept in a cool, dark place, like a pantry or a cupboard away from direct sunlight. This small change makes a big difference. It keeps the potatoes safe, healthy, and just the way they should be. Firm, flavorful, and comforting. Mary made the switch. And now, every time she serves her famous potato soup, it tastes just like it used to, with peace of mind in every spoonful. 2. Bread, from fresh loaf to crumbly memory. Every morning for the past 40 years, Mary started her day the same way. A warm slice of toast, lightly buttered, paired with her favorite black tea. It was a small ritual, but to Mary, it meant comfort. Familiar. Safe. But lately, something had changed. The bread she bought, soft and fluffy at first, seemed to dry out too quickly, even though she carefully kept it in the refrigerator like she'd always done. After just a few days, it felt rough, stiff, lifeless. It no longer toasted the same, no longer tasted the same. The joy of that morning routine was slowly crumbling, just like the bread in her hands. What Mary didn't know was that storing bread in the fridge was doing more harm than good. You see, cold air speeds up a natural process called retrogradation. It's a scientific word, but the result is simple. Bread gets stale faster. Even before it molds, it dries out, becomes hard to chew, and loses its warmth and softness. But there was another concern, one that was far more serious. When Mary took the bread out of the fridge and left it on the counter to warm up, condensation began to build inside the plastic bag. This moisture created the perfect environment for mold. And mold, invisible at first, can be especially dangerous for older adults. For someone like Mary, who sometimes missed the fine print on expiration dates or forgot when she'd bought the loaf, it could pose a real risk to her health. Thankfully, the solution is simple and safer. If you plan to eat the bread within a few days, keep it at room temperature in a cool, dry place, sealed tight. For longer storage, slice the loaf and freeze it. That way, You could take out only what you need, 1 or 2 slices at a time. No waste, no mold, and no more dry, disappointing toast. Mary made the switch, and now, each morning, her toast is just as it used to be, golden, warm, and comforting. A small but precious part of her day restored. 3. The onion that spoiled everything. Mary had always prided herself on keeping a tidy kitchen. Every Sunday, she'd clean out her fridge, wipe down the shelves, and plan simple meals for the week. But one Tuesday morning, something didn't smell right. She opened the fridge and was hit by a musty, sour odor. A closer look revealed the culprit, a forgotten onion tucked in the back of the drawer. It had gone soft, its once crisp layers now damp, with patches of greenish mold. Worse, the moisture from that single onion had seeped into nearby vegetables. Her carrots were slimy. The lettuce had wilted. A whole drawer of fresh produce had to be thrown away. Mary was frustrated. At her age, every dollar matters. And every trip to the grocery store costs more than just money. It costs energy, time, and sometimes physical discomfort. All that waste from just one small mistake. What she didn't know then, but does now, is that onions don't belong in the fridge. Whole onions need dry, dark places to stay fresh. When stored in the refrigerator, the moisture breaks down their natural outer skin, the part that's supposed to protect them. That's when rot sets in. There's more. Onions release something called sulfur compounds, gases that can quietly spoil other foods. Ever had butter that tasted funny, or berries that seemed to go bad overnight? Chances are, a nearby onion played a part. Mary learned her lesson the hard way. Now, she keeps her whole onions in mesh bags in a drawer away from the fridge, where air can circulate and moisture can't collect. And when she chops an onion, she puts the leftovers in a tightly sealed container and uses it within 2 days. It's a small change, but for Mary, it means fewer ruined groceries, fewer wasted dollars, and a kitchen that smells fresh and clean. 4. Tomatoes, the flavor killer. Mary had always loved tomatoes. In her younger days, she would slice them fresh from the garden, sprinkle a little salt, and savor their rich, sun-warmed taste. But lately, something had changed. The tomatoes she brought home from the store tasted wrong. Watery, bland, almost like biting into a piece of rubber. At first, she thought it was just a bad batch, but it kept happening. Week after week, the same disappointment. Even her homemade salads, which once burst with flavor, now felt flat and uninviting. It made her quietly sad, another small joy slipping away with time. But then she learned the reason. It wasn't the tomatoes themselves, it was the fridge. Cold air, she found out, damages the natural enzymes in tomatoes that give them their flavor and texture. Worse still, it breaks down their vitamin C, an important nutrient, especially for people her age, helping to keep the immune system strong and support healing. She had unknowingly been robbing herself of both taste and nutrition. The good news? The fix was easy. Now, Mary keeps her tomatoes on the counter at room temperature, gently placing them stem side down to keep them fresh longer. And when they get a little too soft, she doesn't throw them away. Instead, she simmers them into a simple soup or sauce. It feels like less waste and more warmth. Little changes like this brought a bit of joy back to her kitchen. And that's something worth holding on to. 5. Garlic, from healer to hazard. Mary had always believed in the power of garlic. For decades, it had been her go-to remedy, a natural healer passed down for her grandmother. She'd sprinkle it into soups, crush it into teas, and swear by its strength to ward off colds and boost her immunity. Garlic, to Mary, was more than a spice. It was a tradition. It was comfort. But one day, things took a turn. Like many people trying to keep things fresh, Mary began storing her garlic in the refrigerator. At first, she didn't notice anything unusual. But over time, she saw the cloves sprouting green shoots. The texture became rubbery, the flavor bitter. Even worse, she had started keeping minced garlic in oil, thinking it was convenient. What she didn't know was that this simple habit was quietly putting her health at risk. After a few weeks, Mary began feeling strange, dizzy, nauseous, even weak. She thought it was just age catching up with her. But a family friend, a retired nurse, raised a red flag. Storing garlic in oil without proper preservation could allow Clostridium botulinum to grow, the bacteria behind botulism, a rare but life-threatening illness. Mary was shocked. Her beloved superfood had become a silent threat. That day, she cleared out her fridge. She learned that garlic bulbs should never be kept cold. Instead, they belong in a basket or paper bag, away from moisture, resting in the open air at room temperature. If she needed chopped garlic, she could mix it with vinegar and refrigerate it, but only for a few days, not weeks. And above all, she promised herself, when in doubt, she'd always chop fresh. Garlic hadn't betrayed her. It just needed to be respected, understood, and handled with care. 6. Coffee, the brew that lost its buzz. Mary had always started her day the same way, for over 30 years now. A quiet morning, a well-worn mug, and the comforting aroma of fresh coffee filling her kitchen. It wasn't just a drink. It was her daily ritual, a quiet friend before the day began. But lately, something had changed. Her coffee tasted off. It was bitter, dull, lifeless even. At first, she thought it might be the beans. She switched brands. No change. Maybe her coffee maker was wearing out? She cleaned it, replaced the filter. Still, each cup was disappointing. No spark, no warmth. Just a flat bitterness that lingered on the tongue. Mary felt frustrated. Coffee had always been her little joy. It made her mornings feel alive. Now, that joy was slipping away, and she didn't know why. One afternoon, while chatting with her daughter, she mentioned it, just in passing. Her daughter asked, "Where are you keeping your coffee?" "In the fridge," Mary said. "Always have." And that was it. That tiny habit, done with the best of intentions, was quietly ruining her brew. Coffee, it turns out, is delicate. The fridge might seem like a safe place, but it's full of moisture and smells, from onions to leftovers, that sneak into the beans. Worse, the cold air breaks down antioxidants like chlorogenic acids, which give coffee its richness and health benefits. Over time, even the best beans lose their flavor and value. The fix? So simple. It almost made Mary laugh. She moved her coffee to a sealed, opaque container, placed it in a dark, dry cabinet, and she only ground the amount she needed, right before brewing. That was it. The next morning, the aroma was back. Warm, bold, inviting. Mary took her first sip and smiled. It was like welcoming back an old friend. 7. Honey, the crystal trap. Mary had always taken pride in doing things right. At 72, she had seen the world change, and with it, many habits in the home. She'd grown up watching her mother keep food fresh without a refrigerator, but now, anything that didn't go straight into the fridge made her uneasy. So when she brought home a new jar of golden honey, she followed her instinct. She tucked it onto the cold refrigerator shelf, right next to the jam and pickles. She thought she was protecting it. Cold meant safe, didn't it? But weeks later, when she unscrewed the lid, something had changed. The once clear, smooth honey had turned cloudy. Thick crystals clung to her spoon like frost. Worse, it smelled a little odd, sour almost. Confused and disappointed, she wondered if she'd bought a bad batch. What Mary didn't know was that honey is one of nature's most remarkable preservatives. It never needed the chill of a fridge. In fact, putting honey in the cold could ruin it. Refrigeration causes it to crystallize, those cloudy clumps she saw, and the moisture inside the fridge can sneak into the jar, turning honey from pure and smooth to spoiled and fermented. The solution was simple once she knew it. Honey is happiest in a tightly sealed jar, kept in a dark cupboard at room temperature, away from sunlight, and certainly away from the cold. And if it does crystallize, there's no need to throw it out. A gentle, warm bath, just a bowl of hot water with the jar sitting inside, restores honey to its soft, silky state. Mary now keeps her honey beside the tea, not the butter. And every time she stirs a spoonful into her chamomile, she smiles, knowing she's letting nature do what it does best, without interference. 8. Bananas, a simple pleasure spoiled by the cold. Mary had always found comfort in the simple things. A quiet morning, a warm cup of tea, and a ripe banana, soft, sweet, and easy to digest. For her, bananas weren't just food. They were a daily habit, a reminder of simpler times, and a source of gentle energy that didn't upset her stomach. But one day, something changed. Her daughter, trying to help, began putting the bananas in the refrigerator to make them last longer. It seemed practical at first, but within a day or two, the bananas turned gray. The peel looked dull. The texture inside felt stiff, and the familiar sweetness? Gone. In its place, a flat, almost metallic taste lingered on the tongue. Mary didn't understand why they felt so strange until she found out that cold storage was the problem. You see, bananas are sensitive. When you put them in the fridge, the cold air disrupts the natural enzymes that turn starch into sugar. The ripening process stops. The fruit loses its softness, its color, and most importantly, its flavor. For older adults like Mary, who may already struggle with appetite, digestion, or blood sugar concerns, this change matters. A bland, unripe banana might not be worth eating at all. That's not just a snack lost, it's nutrition, fiber, and a moment of joy gone. So what's the solution? Store your bananas where they belong, on the counter, in a bowl, or hanging on a hook at room temperature. Let them breathe. Let them ripen gently, the way nature intended. And when they're perfectly ripe, but you're not ready to eat them all, peel them and freeze them. They make excellent smoothies, soft-serve treats, or just a cool snack for warmer days. It's a small change, but for someone like Mary, it brought back a piece of her day she didn't realize she missed, the comfort of a perfectly ripe banana. 9. Olive oil, the healthy fat that suffers in the cold. For over 30 years, Mary had taken pride in making the right choices for her health. At 68, she stayed active, cooked her own meals, and swore by olive oil. It's heart-healthy, she'd say, full of those good fats the doctor told me about. So when she read somewhere that refrigeration helps preserve freshness, she thought she was doing the smart thing. Into the fridge the olive oil went, right next to the milk. But something didn't feel right. The next time, she poured it into her pan. It was thick, cloudy, and the rich aroma she loved, gone. A few days later, the taste had turned bitter, almost metallic. She pushed through for a few more weeks, but her food no longer had the same warmth and flavor. It wasn't just the oil that changed. She began to feel off, bloated, more tired after meals, and with an odd taste lingering in her mouth. Worried, Mary mentioned it during a checkup. Her doctor smiled gently and asked, "Where have you been keeping the olive oil?" When she told him, he shook his head. "You're not alone," he said. "A lot of folks think the fridge is safer, but olive oil doesn't like the cold. It's sensitive. When you keep chilling and warming it, the healthy fats start to break down. That's when oxidation kicks in, and that's where the problems start." Mary blinked. "So what should I do?" "It's simple," he said. "Keep it in a dark glass bottle. Leave it somewhere cool, away from the stove and out of direct sunlight. That's all." She went home, moved the bottle to the cupboard, and in just a few days, things started tasting like they used to. That warm, familiar richness returned. So did her energy. Mary used to feel overwhelmed every time she opened her fridge. The clutter, the forgotten leftovers, the mystery jars pushed to the back. It all added up to stress. Cooking, once a joy in her younger years, had become a burden. She didn't realize how much her kitchen was working against her until one quiet morning, she decided to make a change. She didn't do anything drastic. No new appliances, no expensive programs, just small steps. She moved the healthy items to eye level. She grouped similar things together, grains with grains, sauces with sauces. She cleaned out old condiments and made space for fresh vegetables. Little by little, she felt the weight lifting. Mary learned that organizing her kitchen wasn't just about tidiness. It was about reclaiming control. It was about making daily choices easier, healthier, and more joyful. She began to enjoy cooking again, trying out old recipes, and even sharing meals with friends she hadn't seen in years. These changes weren't about trends or fads. They were about freedom, the kind that comes from knowing your home supports your health, not hinders it. So, take a moment today, just 10 minutes. Look at your fridge. Check your pantry. Ask yourself, Is this space helping me live better, healthier, happier? Sometimes. The first step to a stronger body or a clearer mind starts not with a big decision, but with something small, a fresh apple, a clean shelf, or a jar of honey that finally has its place. Will you change first?